What is wrong with this country that they would choose a message of divisiveness, of xenophobia, of racism, of misogyny?
Welcome back, guys. So the hosts of The View get into a disagreement because they can't wrap their heads around the idea that the American people would vote for Donald Trump. Let's get into it.
So do you think Bernie was right about this, that they didn't pay attention enough to the working class?
He's absolutely right, but his solutions are wrong. Kamala Harris outperformed him in Vermont. The lesson Democrats should take is not we didn't run far enough to the left. They lost rural voters. They lost working class voters. And listen, I was someone who I'm recognizing
You guys pushed a candidate that nobody liked. Nobody wanted her to be in it because nobody picked her. You placed her in front of the American people when the American people never said they wanted her.
on this election. I had the privilege of saying I'm voting on democracy because I'm a high-income earner. If your check engine light is on and you've got bills piling up on the table, you're not thinking about democracy. You're not thinking about the war in Ukraine. You're thinking about how will my life be better tomorrow? And the reality is this, we all sat around kind of wondering who is the swing voter that will decide this election? And a lot of folks thought it was women and abortion. No, it turns out it was people in the suburbs who are like, I can't stand Donald Trump's personality. I don't like how he talks, but my life was better off economically when he was president. And I'm struck by this.
But that's the middle class. We're talking about the working class.
I'm talking broadly.
Yeah.
He was not just the working class that he won. He also got the largest share of young voters for Republicans since 2008. That was the height of the financial crisis. Young voters.
He outperformed in every single category. Every single category he outperformed in. Democrats have to wrap their heads around this and come up with honest solutions.
Maybe they care about Gaza. Maybe they care about student loans. But to be honest, 2/3 of this country doesn't even get to go to college. They were thinking, am I going to have a job? Am I going to be able to afford the life that I want? And finally, suburban women, sure, they definitely care about abortion. They also care that they're paying to send their kids to college and their graduations are being canceled because there's protests everywhere and because people are out in the streets demonstrating over a war somewhere else rather than just being able to educate their kids. There is so much room for self-reflection from the Democrats, and I hope they have it. Every time Joe Biden...
I've never heard anything more true said on The View. This is probably the most nuanced, objective take I've ever heard
how
on
good
The
the economy is. Another vote of someone struggling went to Donald Trump.
All right. Anybody else?
I disagree.
All right.
I think that I'd like to reframe the conversation. I think Bernie Sanders is wrong. I think the more relevant question actually is what is wrong with America? I think what is wrong?
Yo, this is, notice who's talking. This is an elite 1%, one of the richest people in this country talking down to the working class average American and asking us what's wrong with us. What is wrong with the regular American people?
What is wrong with our country that the Republican Party would choose as a candidate and support a candidate who is an insurrectionist, who is an election denier, who is someone who is twice impeached, a 34-time convicted felon, someone who has been accused of alleged sexual misconduct by 20...
So let's say all of that is true. Let's say all of that is true. Your side looks terrible because you couldn't run a candidate that would beat somebody with all that going against them. How does that make you look, that you lost against someone who has all that going against them? It makes you look terrible. It makes you look worse that you couldn't present a candidate that was competent enough to be able to win against someone who has everything against them.
26 women found liable for sexual abuse. What is wrong with this country that they would choose a message of divisiveness, of xenophobia, of racism, of misogyny, over a message of inclusiveness, a message for the people, by the people, of the people? That is what the problem is. It's the Republican Party.
But can I say something before we can do a second? The Democrats are the ones. They are the party that cares for the blue collar voter. The Democrats are the ones who put in Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, union protection, ACA, unemployment insurance, and Obamacare. The Republican Party doesn't give a rat's patootie about it.
Well, clearly they didn't convince the voters of
So all I can deduce is that it's the messaging. It didn't get through to people. They're not paying attention. That's all.
Yeah,
because the Democrats have always been for the working people.
People are living in the consequences of this administration, the Biden administration. They're living every day with higher bills, higher grocery, with a border that's not secure. They're seeing all these things that are happening on a daily basis, on top of juggling the bills, taking care of their family, going to work, all this stress. And this is what caused them to vote for Donald Trump. Because they believe that what people remember a couple years ago when he was president, that life was a lot better. Things were a lot cheaper. Things weren't so hard. And it isn't so complicated. People are usually just simple thinkers. Hey, my life is worse now than it was under Trump. I'm voting for Trump.
Exactly. And the Republicans don't care about
I think
it.
the message of the Democrats sounded elitist. You don't have value in the society.
They
if you don't have a
sounded
college
that way,
degree.
but when you look at the proof,
yeah,
they weren't.
but Joy, it's condescending. It's condescending. There is
What's condescending?
The way that the left speaks to its voters. It really is.
A message of joy and inclusiveness?
No, the message of not being educated, being dumb, and what's wrong with America.
Who said that?
Sonny just did.
What is wrong with America?
My point here is that
very introspective.
She's not aware of how she sounds. She's not aware that you sound like an elite talking down to the peasants of the country.
No. But my point is, I don't blame Joe Biden. I don't blame Kamala Harris. Go back as far as you want. I blame a messaging within the Democratic Party.
You don't blame the Republican Party
Can I just finish
at all?
my point, please? I obviously have a problem. Anyone has a problem with Donald Trump. The bigger question should be, yes, Sonny, why did they vote for him?
Yes.
In sweeping...
So they need to be introspective.
No, we need to be introspective. If we voted for Kamala Harris, we need to say, what didn't resonate with the voters? Do you know what didn't resonate with the voters? When they were saying we don't feel safe, and the left focused on defund the police and bail reform.
Yeah.
When they said we're worrying about... Can I just finish? Let me just finish real quickly. When they were focused on
It's only an hour show, ladies.
Joy, when they were focused on renaming schools, there were people saying, hey, students are destroying colleges. I paid for that. I sent them there. They can't learn. And everyone apologized for it and didn't want to attend to it. They also denied the border was a crisis and kept saying, no, it's fine. This is not a...
There was a border bill, though. There was a border bill.
Yes, but Joy, my point is they screamed. They didn't vote for him because he's a racist or a misogynist. They voted because they needed help in their everyday lives.
But Sarah,
the majority of this
you know
country,
that?
because every stat coming out on the people willing to self-reflect are showing these.
Oh, wait, they're going to say, I'm a racist and a misogynist in the exit poll?
You really think 74 million people are racist?
Who's going to say that?
Every racist and misogynist voted for Donald Trump. Not everyone that voted for Donald Trump was a racist and misogynist.
I agree with that.
Everyone swept. They swept every category, and the reason they did is to say, hey, guys, no excuses this time.
Yeah. Look,
they lost everything.
There's still half the country
allows
that
its
doesn't agree with
environment to
him.
be ravaged, its children to be shot, its wealth to be hoarded, its worker to be exploited, its poor to starve.
What is she talking about? Is that what you take away from everything you just heard? 74 million people are not racist, misogynist. They're voting for a reason. They're voting because they want a better country. And you didn't put forward a candidate that made people believe that she would make the country better.
It's cops to murder.
So you think America's the
country
problem?
in trouble.
So America's the problem and the
Trump is
voters
not
are
going to
the
make it
problem.
better.
But what we're talking about was that Bernie Sanders basically thinks that the Democrats didn't lean into the working class as much as we should have. You agree, Anna, or disagree?
Well, Bernie Sanders has been an independent, I think, most of his life, not a Democrat. But
I thought he's a socialist.
Let me go back. No, he's not. He's been an independent. Let me go back to what Biden did.
Socialist by another name.
Okay, may I speak?
Yes, you may.
So, Joe Biden, he did what he, I think, needed to do and what he does best, which is console the part of America right now that feels disturbed, that feels sad, that feels hopeless. He did that yesterday. I also think he was talking to the world, because when the world saw that insurrection, January 6, 2021, it was shocking. That's not what America is. And so I think Joe Biden was talking to America, but also talking to the world and our standing in the world when he talked about our American elections held and the system works, and this is how we do it. He was being a role model to children.
Yeah.
Now, look, I think it's very hard for those of us who just, find Donald Trump abominable and who voted for Kamala Harris to understand what happened. I think we're wrestling with it. I certainly am having a really hard time getting my arms around it because it's hard to understand how they voted for somebody who today they know who he is, right? In 2016, perhaps they didn't, and perhaps they thought he was going to change. Black people voted for somebody they know is a racist. Latinos voted for somebody they know is
Oh
going to
my
deport.
goodness. So the only solution is that everybody is just dumb and you guys are the smart people. No one can recognize all these things you're saying. Everyone is too dumb and you're smart enough to say that Black people voted for somebody who's racist. Maybe they realize that he isn't racist. You ever thought of that? That maybe he isn't. Maybe the rhetoric that you've been pushing for the past 3 months wasn't true.
Deport their abuela.
Yeah.
Puerto Ricans voted for somebody they know treats them like trash and has people around them who actually calls them trash. White women voted for somebody they know took away their reproductive rights. So all of those things are hard for people like me to understand. And that's
me.
People like her, rich, elite Hollywood celebrities who think that they're above everybody.
And it's going to take a while. I would say I'm not going to lecture Democrats because I only voted for 3 Democrats in my life, 2016, 2020, and now 2024. So I'm not going to lecture them on what their messaging should be as a lifelong Republican. What I am going to do, though, is tell the Democrats that are thinking of where they go in 4 years to start making their relationships now, because they need to, rebuild the coalition, and you can't show up and try to have relationships with Latinos at the end. You can't show up and try to have relationships with African Americans or gays or women or this or that at the end. That coalition building, that Obama coalition building, takes time, takes credibility, takes showing up, takes listening.
Yeah. But I do think listening is big because I think the question that a lot of us are facing is how bad was either the Democratic brand or the Democratic messaging that the majority of this country still preferred Donald Trump, who they know all these things that we don't like about him, they still preferred him. What's the answer to that?
Well, wait till he does his nice little tax break for billionaires coming up. And let's see how the working class likes that.
And to be honest, though, I just have to jump in here. The tax bill that was passed, the average family of 4 saved $4,000 a year on their tax bill. You may think it cut too much for the wealthy, but a lot of people, actually, the reason the economy was strong was in part.
Joy, but you know what's going to happen? What's going to happen is what happened
Man, shout out to her. Shout out to her for being brave enough to say things that are true.
2017 when he coasted on Obama's economy.
Yeah.
Yesterday, one of the things that Biden said was that so many of the legislature, the bills that he got, the laws he got passed, like infrastructure, all of that money has been passed now, but all of those projects are going to happen during Trump. So Trump is going to get the benefit of cutting a lot of ribbons of things that he opposed.
Not a single American cares if it was Obama's economy, if it was Biden's, if it was Trump. They care. No, they care if they can make ends meet.
Well, and back to Bernie Sanders, though, and the working class, I think he's onto something about feeling forgotten, because in 2 red states, they voted for Donald Trump, but they voted on a ballot measure to raise the minimum wage to $15. 3 red states voted for Donald Trump, but voted to require employers to do paid sick days. These are things that are the working class. They're wooing those people that the Democrats have always.
Where do they cut back on Medicare and Medicaid?
I'm not saying they're right.
Security.
The reason I vote, again, for Kamala Harris was because I actually think that's not the solution to their problems, but I'm also not one of those people. So,
but look, back in, and we remember when Democrats were in the wilderness during the 80s, after Reagan, after the first Bush, then came Bill Clinton, and there was a realignment, and the Democrats realized what they had to do, and they were then in power for a while, for 8 years, and so I think that's going to happen naturally. What is not productive is pointing fingers at Joe Biden, who's not going to be there in 4 years, pointing fingers at Kamala Harris, who's not going to be running in 4 years, and pointing
Trump.
Get to doing
That's the good news.
Yeah, but I mean, it amazes me that some Democrats haven't figured out what went wrong. It's your rhetoric. Your rhetoric wasn't working because no one believed it. You were calling someone a racist, a bigot, everything in the book, but you were overlooking the regular working class people who don't care about any of that. Because to be honest, to most people, you can be all that, but if you're going to help them pay their bills, they don't care. And that's what happened. That's what happened. I'm glad to see that some of the hosts on The View are actually having objective thoughts about this situation instead of just saying that all of the American people are racist and bigots too for voting for someone who is a quote unquote racist bigot. But let me know what you think down below. Do you agree with the hosts on The View? Whether you agree or disagree, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, God bless.